You may start.
So, my name is Alex Lockwood, and I'm here to tell you about my 3 dogs and the impacts they've had on my life. Now, several weeks ago, as I was traipsing through the undergrowth, trying to catch my dog who had escaped, crawling down on my hands and knees, stopping, listening for barking, and getting scratches on my clothes. And I thought I saw her a few times, but it turned out to be a deer. At one point I really did see her run past me. I called out to her and she still didn't come back. And I was devastated, and I thought I'd never see her again. I stayed out there for about an hour and a half, going back and forth between places I'd seen her and trying to listen out for her. Eventually I had to face the facts and give up and go back home. And as I was sitting at home, wallowing in my despair of having lost a dear friend, I heard a scratching at the door, and she had just waltzed back home without a care in the world, and was just waiting to drink her weight in water and then flop down and sleep. I know many of you have dogs, and I'm sure many of you can agree that they can be vexing animals, but I think it's all worth it. I've been a dog owner for well over a decade, and my dogs have had many positive impacts on my life. They've improved my mood and how I feel about myself. They've helped to teach me discipline, and they've helped to teach me patience. First, I'll talk about how they've improved my mood and my self-esteem. Of course, it's obvious that having 3 dogs can help you feel a lot better when you come home and they're all jumping and they're all happy to see you. They're jumping at you, they're sniffing, they're licking your face. Even though it might be gross, it is endearing. But they also made me feel good about myself, not only because they loved me, but because I love them and I care for them, and it makes me feel useful sometimes when I'm feeling bad about myself for other reasons in my life. When I first got my most recent 2 dogs, I was in a pretty rough spot in my life. College wasn't going well. I had to take a step back and sort of reorient myself, and I felt like a failure. But I was important to these dogs, and that really helped me. Now that I've talked about how my dogs have improved how I feel, I'll talk a bit about how they taught me discipline. The first way is how I had to discipline them. See, my first dog was an easy dog. She's a chocolate lab, and she was very good-natured right from the start, so we didn't have to train her so much. My next 2 dogs, which are hound mutts, were not the case at all. When we first got them, we couldn't leave them alone for practically any period of time because they would just destroy the couch, the cushions, they'd jump up on the counter and eat food. And we had to be very firm and very consistent to curb these behaviors. And I was able to apply a little of that to myself as well in the rest of my life. And I also had to discipline myself with regards to the dog's schedules. I had to get up at a certain time every day to feed them, or else they would let me know that I wasn't doing a good job. And I had to make sure they got their exercise, make sure I had to walk them and everything. And had to be consistent with all that, as well as the trainings, and that helped sort of reestablish a bit of structure in my life, where I otherwise didn't have much to do. My last point, now that I've talked about my mood and discipline, I'd like to speak about how my dogs have taught me patience. As I said before, it took a while to get my two smaller dogs to a point where they behaved well, and many times I got very angry with them. There were times where one of them, I was sitting in a chair out in the backyard holding onto her leash so she didn't dig under the fence again, and she saw something off in the distance and she took off after it and pulled me out of the chair. I was so angry with her, but I had to control myself and be patient with her, because I knew, expressing my anger at her wouldn't solve anything. So, patience with their behavior and also having the patience to properly train them was something I had to practice. And also, my first dog that I got, my chocolate lab, is getting very old these days, and she's very slow and she needs a lot of patience. So dealing with her is made me a lot more patient in general, because I love her and I don't want to rush her. So in conclusion, my dogs have improved my life in many ways, including my mood, my self-esteem, my self-discipline, and my patience. And as my oldest dog gets older, and I can already sense the day when I'll have to say goodbye to her, I've looked back and I consider just how large the impact of a dog's life is on our lives, with respect to how long they actually live, and it's absolutely incredible. I'm very grateful for my 3 dogs and everything they've done